Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be from the inside because I want to read you an email that I have received some time ago. We're going to stay on the topic of Russian President Vladimir Putin. I'm coming to this point when I am realizing that more and more people are also starting to question his presidency as far as his relationship with certain group of sect that is very close to him, Chabad Lubavitch. You are very aware of that group on my channel. And I just came across a post on Instagram, and other content creators are starting to talk about it, which is, I think, very good, because we have to question absolutely everyone and absolutely everything. And Putin is no different than many, many other so-called leaders, definitely chosen. I don't know by who. Some say by Kissinger, some say by other people. But let me play this clip for you, because I think to those who are still on the fence, maybe this email and this clip will present to you the story that I have been trying to present to you for the last year, as I became aware of things I was not aware of before. And why this is all important? Well, because we should not believe, in my opinion, in any politician, especially like those who are in power for so many years, example of Putin. And no one who is in power is there just by the grace of God, I wish. I mean, there is a grace of God, of course, but has been put there by certain, let's say, dark forces who are running the show. So let's take a look at this clip. Let's take a listen. And we go to the email.
Now you cross over the border into Russia. The chief rabbi, who we were talking about a little earlier, Berel Lazar, he's the chief rabbi of Russia. And he admitted in a video several years ago that all of Russia's Middle East decisions, quote unquote Middle East decisions, they are first run through him and coordinated with Israel.
Politically, Russia and Israel are very, very strong. Everything that's happening in Syria, it's fully coordinated between Israel and Russia. They're on the phone every single day. The Ministry of Defense was in Israel around a month ago. It was an amazing visit and very successful. And there's whatever Russia is doing today in the Middle East is fully in coordination with Israel.
So that's why Russia didn't really help Iran in the war.
I'll do you one better, my dear brother. At the height of the war in Syria, you had multiple IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commanders, saying that Russia allowed or even gave coordinates to Israel to assassinate Iranian and Hezbollah
Yeah, because I
commanders.
thought Russia wasn't going to come and help during the war. They didn't.
Now you cross over the border into Russia.
Before I close this, guys, I want to read a comment from someone who I don't think was ever in Russia, but maybe he was. His name is called Evil or Evil? What a name. Anyway, he says, Putin is loved by millions because he kicked out the Rothschilds / Cabal Central Bank. I will continue with this, but let me address the first sentence. Is he loved by millions? Yes, he is. Why he's loved by millions? Because overall, the lifestyle in Russia has improved, especially in the big cities. If you go to the smaller cities, you might actually watch a lot of documentaries from Russia, and people, especially elderly people, are in very challenging situations. Again, no country is perfect. Is he loved? I think absolutely by millions, but that's how the brainwashing also works. Did he kicked out the Rothschilds Cabal Central Bank? Not necessarily. If you do the research, there is still location of Rothschilds in Moscow. And we're going to go into details in the email that I will be reading to you after this. So not everything is true. He banned GMOs from their food supply chain, eliminated chemtrails, while putting God, faith, and family in the forefront. So let me just say this. When I was in Moscow many times, a lot of my viewers were pointing out at the chemtrails. I was so absolutely I had like cognitive dissonance in the time, and I was like, no chemtrails. But now I see it because I can go back to the videos, and there are chemtrails in Russia. And I'm sure I have some Russian viewers still, quite a number of them. They can confirm that. Is he putting God, faith, and family in the forefront? Yes, but I also think this is done deliberately because Russian people, most people, I think, know what's going on. They are just afraid to express it. There are people who believe that he is Christian Orthodox. I absolutely don't agree with this anymore. I think he is crypto Jew. Today, Russia is one of the most Christian nations in the world. Well, they present themselves as they are because the citizens are. However, Chabad Lubavitch has one of the strongest presence in Russia from any other country in the world. But this content creator, Jake Shields, is talking about it. So let's stop sharing this. Now I want to take you guys to the email that I have received some time ago from someone who actually I have interviewed, but I don't want to say the name because I don't know if he wants to be mentioned in this context as far as this email goes. I want to read you this email. There are some images as well, because this is what I have been talking about for a long time now, for a year actually, more than a year, when I had this aha moment of awakening how all of those countries are absolutely connected. Many people still don't believe that Putin is one of them, but he definitely is. There are a few things in this email that I don't agree with. They are exaggerated, and I don't think they are fully truth, but a lot of points are actually very valid. So I hope you will stay with me as I will be reading this email. So let's go to it and let's read this, guys. The Jewish roots of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Again, you have to do your own research, but I am here to present to you a side of the story that many still don't want to address. And this is when they fall victim to being manipulated once again. So this person says, and this was from September 29, 2015, I think. Anyway, Vladimir Putin is a Jew. That's what this article says. In the first edition of Putin's book, First Person and Astonishingly, sorry for mispronouncing, frank self-portrait by Russia's president, it says his mother maiden name was Shalomovich, which apparently is a Jewish name. Yet in the second edition, it conveniently changes to Shelyomova. A cover-up? That's the question. If it looks like it, smells like it, sounds like it, what is it? Here you see the images I have showed you already, but it's good to revisit them. I think this was the real Putin, by the way, guys. Here you see this guy holding something that says, touching the stones of our heritage. I think it's touching, right? The stones of our heritage. Here you have Putin visiting the wall. This was the real Putin. Putin's maternal grandfather was a Jew involved in the Bolshevik Revolution. His paternal grandfather worked all his life as the chef of Lenin and Stalin. I'm sure many of you know this fact. His paternal grandfather, Spiridon Ivanovich Putin, who lived from 1879 to 1965, was employed at Vladimir Lenin's dacha at Gorky as a cook. And after Lenin's death in 1924, he continued to work for Lenin's wife, Nadezhda Krupskaya. He would later cook for Joseph Stalin when the Soviet leader visited one of his dachas in the Moscow region. Spiridon later was employed at the dacha belonging to Moscow City Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, at which the young Putin would visit him. His other grandfather, so Putin's other grandfather, was a Jew from a Ukrainian village and a Bolshevik activist. Again, I'm just reading you the email. You have to do your own research. A lot of points here are accurate. That's what I will say. Putin was put into power by the Federation of Jewish Organization in Russia. You see, this I didn't know. I actually thought that that was Kissinger who suggested Putin, but they are all connected. So one more time, Putin was put into power by the Federation of Jewish Organizations in Russia. The Jewish chairman of this organization, Abramovich, stated in a 2005 interview that Putin could obtain Israeli citizenship if he wanted as an ethnic Jew. Well, I didn't know there was such an interview, and that his mother was a Jew, Shelyomova. This makes Putin full Jewish by Jewish law. Putin traces his earliest connection to Judaism back to his early childhood in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, when he befriended a Jewish family that lived in his apartment block. I've mentioned this before. He actually mentioned this many times, so I'm sure you are aware of that, of those neighbors that he had. In his 2000 autobiography, Putin wrote that the unnamed family loved him and that he used to seek its company. Quoting now what he wrote, "They were observant Jews who did not work on Saturdays, and the man would study the Bible and Talmud all day long. Once I even asked him what he was muttering, I think I said it correctly. He explained to me what this book was, and I was immediately interested." So this person who writes this article says, "Can anyone believe that Jews let Goyim, because Goyim is anyone who is not a Jew, read their holy books?" Next, Vladimir Putin told me a personal story in the Kremlin. Just look at Putin's face and ears closely. He is no more a Christian than Benjamin Netanyahu. He is just another crypto Jew. I'm just reading an email, guys, so those of you who are triggered, be triggered. He is just another crypto Jew, having conveniently converted to Orthodox Christianity. How convenient. As the New Republic's Julia Ioffe notes, a number of his closest confidants, as well as the judo teacher who served as a mentor and surrogate father, are Jews. Moreover, Putin's closest associate and Prime Minister of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, is also a Jew. I've mentioned this before as well. He visited the wall, I think, twice, if I'm not mistaken, talking about Medvedev. And his wife is also, I think his wife is Jewish, Medvedev's wife. Vladimir Putin is just another manipulative, greedy, demonic billionaire oligarch Jew who is deceiving everyone in Russia. Besides, Israel and its media were always friendly to Putin's Russia and completely ignored political position of US towards Russian president. During a March 4th, 2014 news conference, Putin called the anti-Yanukovych protesters reactionary nationalists and anti-Semitic forces. Most Israel media used against Euromaidan protesters the same definitions. Well, this Euromaidan, so it's like, you have the same, at the top, the same people who create this Maidan, okay, and the same who are on the other side. So it looks like there's no side that is better at all. It's actually the same. Putin has repeatedly cited the alleged anti-Semitism of Ukrainian nationalists in justifying Russia's 2014 annexation of the Ukraine-controlled Crimea. In January 2015, Putin, I don't know this word, invoked against Ukrainian nationalists. He called them Banderites. Well, that is true. So we have to say, some things are true, but it's just the context of it. A reference to the Ukrainian nationalist and the anti-Semite Stefan Bandera, which during World War II fought against Soviet army during a speech he delivered on International Holocaust Memorial Day. So this was what Putin was saying during International Holocaust Memorial Day when he was Lazar's guest at Moscow's Jewish Museum. By contrast, hostile attitudes to Jews are prevalent in only 30% of the Russian population, according to the Anti-Defamation League's 2015 World Index. less than in France, 37%, Poland, 45%, or Ukraine, almost 50%. So this is the statistic from 2015, because this is when this article was created. So I think now it could be different. The hostile attitudes towards Jews, it's 30% of the Russian population that has this attitude. Poland has 45, etc., as you can see here. So this was like 11 years ago. I'm sure it has changed. Putin was also the first Russian leader to visit Israel, where he attended an official reception. He also visited a Moscow synagogue, participated in candle lighting ceremonies on Hanukkah, and reportedly had an open door for one of Russia's two chief rabbis, Berel Lazar. So I've mentioned this many times before. Now let's go here. Under Putin, the Hasidic FJCR became increasingly influential within the Jewish community, partially due to the influence of federation-supporting businessmen mediated through their alliances with Putin, notably Liev Leviev, that's the name, and Roman Abramovich. According to the JTA, Putin is popular amongst the Russian Jewish community, who sees him as a force for stability. Russia's chief rabbi, Berel Lazar, said, Russia has in Vladimir Putin its most pro-Jewish leader, whom he credits with fighting anti-Semitism more vigorously than any Russian leader before him. For Russia's Jews, whose estimate numbers range from 100,000 to 500,000, that was in 2015, Putin marked a departure from the anti-Semitism of past communist elites and of the once all-powerful KGB, which he served for nearly 2 decades. Treated as a punching bag by communist rulers and waved off as a nuance by Boris Yeltsin, the restitution resistance president who replaced them, Russian Jewry has experienced a golden age under Putin. From the maritime border with Japan to the land border with Finland, dozens of synagogues in Russia have been returned to communities that, with help from Chabad rabbis, began to flourish and open hundreds of kindergartens, schools, and Jewish community centers. While human rights groups reported surges in xenophobic attacks at various times during Putin's presidency, Jews rarely were the targets. Under Putin, harsh laws have led to crackdown on ultra-nationalist groups that once had flourished in Russia. Hundreds, if not thousands, of Russian nationalists and anti-Semites were sent to jails during his presidency. Mikhail Khlienov, I think that's how you say his name, Secretary General of the Euro-Asian Jewish Congress, says Putin's pro-Jewish tendencies are part of the reason that anti-Semitic incidents are relatively rare in Russia. In 2013, the Russian Jewish Congress documented only 10 anti-Jewish attacks and acts of vandalism compared to dozens in France. Few would dispute that Putin has been friendly to Jewish institutional life in Russia, sorry for mispronouncing, especially to organizations and leaders that belong to the Chabad Hasidic movement. Gorin, a Chabad rabbi and chairman of Moscow's $50 million Jewish museum, this was the cost. The Jewish Museum and Tolerance Center cost $50 million. Credits Putin personally for providing state funding for the institution, which opened in 2012. Putin also donated, sorry guys, let me find it, I scroll down. Putin also donated, it's right here, a month's wages to the museum. Putin has facilitated the opening of synagogues and the Jewish community centers across Russia and the Jewish community's request. This has had a profound effect on Jewish life, especially outside Moscow, Gorin said. Continuing, quoting him, he instituted annual meetings with Jewish community leaders and attends community events. His friendship with the Jewish community has given it much prestige and set the tone for local leaders. Zvi Gitelman, a professor of Judaic studies, or Judaic, you say, Judaic? Studies at the University of Michigan, who studies the relationship between ethnicity and politics in the former Soviet Union, said Chabad, with help of Putin, is now the dominant religious expression of Judaism in a mostly non-religious population. When even Russian policemen had to pass security checks to enter the Sochi Winter Olympics, Rabbi Berel Lazar was waved in without even showing his ID. It's interesting, huh? A lot of things I didn't know. But Lazar and Putin's relationship seems to go deeper than political expendency. That's how you say it, expendency. In 2012, Lazar led the Russian leader on a tour of Jerusalem's Western Wall. And last year, so that is 2014, Putin made Lazar a member of Russia's prestigious Merit to the Fatherland Order, the country's highest civilian decoration, and one that is rarely conferred on people who were not born in Russia. Lazar became a Russian citizen in 2000. Actually, maybe he's mentioning that Berel Lazar received an order, but it was last year, it was 2025. I showed you this in one of my videos. Vladimir Putin for 16 years was an officer in the KGB, rising to the rank of lieutenant colonel, but in 2000 he became an uncrowned Tsar of Russia, 1.6 of Earth's length. This is also another topic to go through as far as the real maps of our planet, guys, but that's a different story. Let me see. Some things here are not, I don't agree with, but I want to read right here. From 2000, when Putin became a new president of Russia, the oil prices have risen considerably and the Russian economy received more than $2 trillion from oil and gas trade. Not a cent of this money has been invested into real Russian economy. I don't know how this went. Again, I have to do more research on it. Part of the oil money goes on important goods and the rest vanished in the pockets of Jewish bosses who sit on the oil pipe. The eternal question is, who lives well in Russia? At different times, there were different people, but now everyone knows that life is only good for the super rich oligarchs, mostly Jews. Putin did not kill oligarchic rule in Russia. What a nonsense. He pushed back Berezovsky and Khodorovsky because they were a threat to his rule, which the money power needs to be strong and centralized. The Putin oligarch deal is quite clear. The Kremlin for him, the economy for them. According to a report by Russian banking website lenta.ru, which gives the 48 Jews on the list a combined net worth of almost 133 billion US dollars, while Jews account for only 0.5% of Russian population. So this is the scale, guys. The whole, if this is accurate, I think a lot of things in this post are accurate, in this article are accurate. The whole wealth of Russian billionaires is less than 300 billion. So the whole wealth of Russian billionaires in Russia is less than 300 billion. But the Jewish billionaires have 133 billion US dollars from the 300 billion. Among the 48 Jews who made the list, 42 are Ashkenazi and together have a net worth of 122.3 billion US dollars. The average net worth of each Ashkenazi billionaire stands at almost 3 billion US dollars, 2.9. The wealthiest Ashkenazi is Mikhail Friedman, who has a net worth of 17.6 billion US dollars and is Russia's richest, second richest man. I think Putin is number one, actually. The Ashkenazi billion, I think, is Putin number one? I don't know. Anyway, The Ashkenazi billionaires include Viktor Vekselberg, net worth of 17.2 billion US dollars, Leonid Mikkelson, net worth of $15.6 billion, German Khan, net worth 11.3 billion dollars, Mikhail Prokhorov, net worth of 10.9 billion US dollars, and Roman Abramovich, net worth 9.1 billion US dollars. Journalist Nikolai Sfanidze, a member of the Public Chamber of Russia, a consultant for the office of President Vladimir Putin, said in a response that the list is a Nazi report and that the ethnicities of the wealthiest members of Russian society should not be punished, as it is subject to cause issues. The Jewish Rothschilds, who created the Soviet Union at the top, still owns Russia, who Abramovich is a front Jew of Russian government owned Rosneft in business with Rockefeller. Rockefellers are Jewish. They are of the Rothschilds bloodlines, run Exxon and BP despite sanctions. The Putin government and I don't know what's this, I think Chabad it means, Hubais, are joint owners of Rusnano. In 2012, Rothschild Capital Partners bought a 37% stake in the Rockefellers' wealth advisory and assessed management group. I really apologize for my reading today. I don't know, something is happening. Rothschilds run Glencore, and the Putin government joined forces to create the world's largest aluminum company, Rusal. The Rothschild Global Financial Advisory is located in downtown Moscow. This is what I've mentioned before. And their website brags of high-level political access to the Russian government. Deripaska, the last name, is CEO of Rusal. Abramovich is Putin's close confidant and a joint shareholder, along with the Russian government in assets such as Gazprom, Aeroflot, and Rusal. Putin selected close friend Oleg Deripaska to represent Russia in ABAC, APEC Business Advisory Council. Deripaska is also a close friend with Rusal business partners with Roman Abramovich. The Rothschild family are major shareholders of Rio Tinto, Rusal, and Rio Tinto are involved in joint mining operations despite so-called sanctions imposed by the West. The Rothschild family are majority shareholders of Rio Tinto, Rusal, and Rio Tinto are involved in joint mining operations. Okay, so it's the same, repeated. Not Rothschild is a fellow Rusal investor and best friend of Roman Abramovich. Isn't that the same guy who had the yacht that Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner were discovering the Sazan Island? You remember, guys? Nat Rothschild, I think it's him. Nat is also close friends and Rusal business partners with Oleg Deripaska. This is Putin's visit. As you can tell, I think these are just mainly now the images. Berel, Lazar. You've seen many of those pictures already. I showed. Look at this. What a picture. Еврейский музей, which means Jewish museum. Еврейский музей. Yeah, from opening this 50 million US dollars. A young rabbi, a young Putin, lighting Hanukkah. So I've read you this article because here is Kissinger, right? Henry Kissinger. And I think this was still a real Putin. Yeah. Or God knows. Is this Rothschild, guys? Isn't it Rothschild? I think it's Rothschild, right? Look at this. So this is like horrific art. Oh, Milejkowski. With Milejkowski. Here we go. I just advise everyone to do your own research. This was one of the biggest disappointments for me, to discover things. Young Putin and his mother, Maria Putina Shelyomova. But of course, there are many people who will never question things. And I wasn't questioning things in the beginning as well. So I have to be absolutely honest with you. I'm going to attach, this looks like very shady, all of this. I mean, I don't know, it just looks very, very, very kind of obvious, shady, obvious shady. So I want to say this. To those who still believe that there are some saviors, like believe in him, okay, good luck. What's the difference, right, between Trump, him, Zelensky? Just different out. It's like different masks, the same energy kind of, and different behavior. But who pulls the strings? And then again, I don't know how many Putins are out there. There are several Putins. It's not the same person anymore, as you can see clearly, a lot of you. But I will attach the link to this article. Again, not everything I agree with, but there are a lot of points that are legit. I truly trust in some of those statements, because I was doing the research for the last year and I came across a lot of things that at this point I know that's what it is. And it's just surprising to me that there are people in Russia who are Russian citizens who don't question it. Because I think majority of governments in the world, I don't know if all governments, but I would say 99% are controlled by the same group. And again, those black heads that you see, they don't have some like small heads, right? Like they have actually big heads, big black heads. They are the visible side, representing another group that is above them that we will not see. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. And thank you so much for supporting my work. I don't know if I said thank you to Fred, who had just donated on my PayPal. It really helps me very much. I promise you I will be going back to outside videos, but this kind of video, the best way to record is inside, reading you the article and showing you the images or playing the video. So you have to understand that there are some topics that I am bringing to your attention that require me to sit down and present you in such a way like I did today. And I apologize for mispronouncing many words. I know you're a very forgiving audience and you will be okay with that still somehow. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. I know a lot of you still believe in him and think that digital ID is okay, digital ruble okay. There are no chemtrails. Yes, there are chemtrails in Russia. He didn't ban them. And he implemented the same COVID rules like in every other schmovit, as I should say, like in every other country. So many, many things I talked about before. I'm repeating myself constantly. But there is this saying in Latin, I think, repetitio mater studiorum. I probably mispronounce again, which means the repetition is the mother of study. So probably we have to repeat certain things when we study it to better understand it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you choose to support my work, go to Patreon, Locals, or PayPal. Follow me on Instagram. I very much appreciate if you do. You can see my travels there. And next journey I will be taking you on, I hope soon. I really hope soon. Because I'm making some decisions, like I said in my last video, about exploration before relocation, let's put it this way. And with this being said, guys, lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. We really are. The link to this article will be down below the video, as well as the link to this short clip from Instagram that I have played for you. Make sure to subscribe. And if you appreciate the content, to hit the thumbs up. It's free of charge and it helps me a lot. Leave the comments and let me know your thoughts. Lots of love, and I see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.